The unexpected patient. Dr. Sarah Chen never expected her dermatology practice would put her at the center of humanity's greatest mystery. The morning started typically enough, reviewing patient files, checking lab results, and sipping her third cup of coffee. Then she saw it, an appointment marked simply as Visitor 7. The government memo had arrived months ago, explaining that Earth's new alien visitors might require medical services. Like most doctors, Sarah filed it away as an interesting footnote, never expecting to actually encounter one. Yet here she was, watching through her office window as a sleek shuttle descended from the massive ship that had become a fixture in Earth's orbit over the past year. The being that entered her office defied easy description. Its exoskeleton shifted through iridescent blues as it moved, reminding Sarah of a morpho butterfly's wings. Despite its alien appearance, there was an unmistakable intelligence in how it carried itself, how it seemed to assess the room with compound eyes that reflected the fluorescent lights. "I'm honored and puzzled," Sarah said, maintaining her professional composure despite her racing heart. The alien's translator, a small device attached to what might be called its throat, processed her words. "You are your world's foremost expert on patterns that emerge on the dermis of your species," it replied, the translator producing perfectly modulated English with just a hint of an accent Sarah couldn't quite place. The conversation that followed would change everything Sarah thought she knew about human history and evolution. The alien, who introduced itself as Zelka from the Centauri Alliance, explained about the curators, beings of immense power who had apparently shepherded countless species across the galaxy toward intelligence. "Every species we've encountered bears their mark," Zelka explained, its exoskeleton shifting to a deep azure that Sarah was beginning to associate with scientific curiosity. A simple geometric pattern, usually located in what you'd call the lower back region. Sarah's examination of Zelka revealed exactly what it described: two perfect equilateral triangles arranged point to point, about 6 centimeters across, embedded in its chitinous exterior. But when Zelka examined her, the absence of any such mark sent ripples of green concern across its surface. The implications were staggering. Either humanity had somehow developed without curator intervention, which Zelka insisted was virtually impossible given Earth's history, or something far more troubling was at play. "The moon," Zelka said, its color now shifting to a deep violet that Sarah hadn't seen before. "Its formation and orbit, it's too perfect. The curators were here. They must have been. But then why?" The alien's voice trailed off as it began accessing what appeared to be a holographic database projected from a device on its arm. Sarah watched in fascination as images of different alien species flashed by, each bearing the same distinctive mark in different locations and forms. "Dr. Chen," Zelka said finally, its color stabilizing to a more neutral tone, "would you be willing to help me investigate this mystery? The implications could be significant." Sarah glanced at her appointment book, then back at the alien. Her afternoon was full of routine checkups and minor procedures. But how often does one get the chance to unravel what might be the greatest mystery in human history? "Call me Sarah," she said, reaching for her coat. "And yes, I'll help. Where do we start?" What followed was a cascade of events that would reshape humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos. Sarah's expertise in dermatological patterns and genetic markers would prove crucial as they delved deeper into the mystery of humanity's apparent uniqueness. The investigation began with a thorough review of human genetic databases, searching for any trace of the curator's genomic signature. When that proved fruitless, they expanded their search to archaeological records, ancient art, and even cave paintings, looking for any representation of the distinctive double triangle pattern. But it was when they started examining human birthmarks and genetic anomalies that things got interesting. Sarah noticed something in the data, a pattern so subtle it had been overlooked for centuries. It wasn't the curator's mark as Zelka knew it, but something else, something that suggested humanity's relationship with these mysterious beings might be more complex than anyone had imagined. As the first day of their investigation drew to a close, Sarah sat in her office, surrounded by holographic displays showing genetic sequences and ancient artifacts. Zelka had returned to the orbital ship to consult with others of its kind, leaving her with more questions than answers. She found herself staring at an image of the lunar surface, thinking about what Zelka had said about its formation. If the curators had indeed played a role in creating Earth's moon, what else might they have done? And more importantly, why had they apparently broken their pattern with humanity? Sarah didn't know it yet, but she was about to embark on a journey that would take her from the genetic labs of Earth to the stars themselves, uncovering a truth about humanity's origins that would shake the foundations of every human civilization and religion. As she packed up her notes for the day, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Dr. Chen, we need to talk. What you've discovered, it's not the first time someone has noticed. Meet me tomorrow at dawn. Bring your alien friend. There's something you both need to see." The message was signed simply, "Keeper of the Archive." Secrets of the Archive. The coordinates led Sarah and Zelka to a seemingly abandoned observatory perched high in the Chilean Andes. Dawn painted the snow-capped peaks in shades of rose and gold, but Sarah barely noticed the breathtaking view. Her mind was still processing yesterday's discoveries and the cryptic message that had brought them here. "Atmospheric density at this altitude is uncomfortable," Zelka commented, its exoskeleton displaying ripples of muted orange that Sarah had learned indicated mild distress. The alien's environmental suit hummed softly as it compensated for the thin air. A figure emerged from the observatory's shadow, an elderly woman with silver hair and eyes that seemed to hold centuries of wisdom. "Dr. Chen, Zelka of the Centauri Alliance, welcome to the archive," she said, her voice carrying clearly despite the wind. "I am Dr. Isabel Vasquez, though some know me by my title, Keeper of the Archive." The observatory's main dome housed not telescopes, but rows upon rows of ancient artifacts, geological samples, and what appeared to be highly advanced scanning equipment. "This facility has existed in secret for over 3 centuries, Isabel explained. "We are an organization older than modern science, dedicated to understanding humanity's true origins." She led them to a sealed vault at the observatory's heart. "What I'm about to show you has been kept hidden from the world, passed down through generations of keepers. It all began in 1572, when a Spanish expedition discovered something extraordinary in an Incan temple. The vault door opened with a soft hiss, revealing a small chamber dominated by a single display case. Inside, floating in a preservation field that looked far too advanced for Earth technology, was what appeared to be a stone tablet. But as they drew closer, Sarah realized it wasn't stone at all, it was some kind of crystalline material that seemed to catch and hold light in impossible ways. Zelka's exoskeleton flashed brilliant white, a color Sarah had never seen it display before. This cannot be," it whispered. "This is curator technology. Active curator technology." "Yes," Isabel confirmed. "We call it the Rosetta Matrix. It's been active since we found it, drawing power from some source we still don't understand. And it's been waiting." Sarah stepped closer to the crystal tablet. Its surface was covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change as she watched. "Waiting for what?" "For them," Isabel said, gesturing to Zelka. "For first contact. The patterns contain information, vast amounts of it, but they only became readable when your ship entered Earth orbit." Zelka connected its translator device to the preservation field's interface. The patterns on the crystal surface immediately began flowing faster, resolving into recognizable symbols and diagrams. The alien's color shifted through a rainbow of emotions as it processed the information. This changes everything," Zelka said finally. "The curators didn't abandon Earth. They did something here they've never done anywhere else. They made humanity independent." The revelation sparked a flurry of activity. Over the next several hours, Zelka translated more of the tablet's contents while Isabel shared the archive's centuries of research. A picture began to emerge that was simultaneously troubling and exhilarating. The curators had indeed been involved in Earth's development, but their approach had been radically different from their standard intervention pattern. Instead of guiding humanity along a predetermined path, they had done something unprecedented. They had created conditions for truly independent evolution. "Look at this section," Zelka said, indicating a complex diagram on the tablet. The moon's creation wasn't just about stabilizing Earth's axis. Its specific composition and orbit created unique tidal forces that affected early protein formation in Earth's primordial oceans. They weren't following their usual pattern, they were conducting an experiment. But why? Sarah asked, studying the medical records Isabel had provided, centuries of documented anomalies that suddenly made sense in this new context. Why make humans different? Isabel's answer was interrupted by a sudden warning from the observatory's security system. "We have multiple vehicles approaching," she announced, her calm demeanor slipping slightly. "This facility has remained hidden for hundreds of years. Someone must have tracked your arrival." Through the observatory's windows, they could see a convoy of black vehicles winding up the mountain road. "Government?" Sarah asked. "No," Isabel said grimly. "The archive has many enemies. Some human organizations believe the truth about our origins should remain hidden. Others want to use that knowledge for their own ends. We need to leave. Now." "The shuttle is 8 minutes away," Zelka reported, its exoskeleton now a deep crimson that Sarah interpreted as alarm. "The tablet," Sarah said. "We can't let them get it." Isabel was already moving, her aged hands flying over the preservation field's controls. "The Matrix was never meant to stay here. The Keepers were just protecting it until the right time. Take it. Learn its secrets. Understand why humanity was made different." The preservation field deactivated with a soft chime. Zelka carefully lifted the crystal tablet, its surface now dormant, and secured it in a compartment of its environmental suit. Sarah helped Isabel activate what appeared to be the facility's self-destruct sequence. 300 years of records, Isabel said softly, watching as the archive's computer systems began systematically erasing themselves. But the truth was always in the Matrix. Everything else was just our fumbling attempts to understand it. They made it to the observatory's roof just as the first vehicles reached the base of the building. The shuttle appeared silently from behind a mountain peak, its stealth systems making it nearly invisible against the dawn sky. As they boarded, Sarah caught a glimpse of armed figures emerging from the vehicles below. "What now?" she asked as the shuttle accelerated away from the observatory. Through the viewport, she watched as carefully controlled explosions began consuming the facility, erasing centuries of secret research. "Now," Zelka said, its color settling into a deep, determined blue, "we find out why the curators wanted humanity to develop differently. And more importantly, we need to discover what they were preparing humanity for." The crystal tablet pulsed once in its compartment, as if in agreement. As the shuttle climbed toward the orbital ship, Sarah realized they had only begun to scratch the surface of humanity's true origin story. The real questions, and their potentially world-shaking answers, still lay ahead. The hidden pattern. The orbital ship's genetic laboratory hummed with activity as Sarah, Zelka, and a team of alien scientists worked to unlock the secrets contained within the Rosetta Matrix. 3 days had passed since their narrow escape from the observatory, and Sarah had barely slept, too consumed by the possibilities emerging from their research. "There's something elegant about human DNA," said Zaira, a crystalline being whose transparent body refracted light like a living prism. Her expertise in xenogenetics had proven invaluable. "It's not just different from other species, it's fundamentally more adaptable." Sarah studied the holographic display showing comparative genetic sequences from dozens of spacefaring species. The human genome stood out not for its complexity, several species had more intricate genetic structures, but for its flexibility. Where other species showed clear signs of targeted genetic engineering by the curators, human DNA displayed something entirely different. "It's like they created a framework rather than a finished product," Sarah mused, zooming in on a particularly interesting sequence. Instead of programming specific traits, they gave us the ability to develop them naturally. Zelka, who had been interfacing with the matrix for hours, suddenly shifted to a brilliant emerald color. "Look at this," it said, projecting a new set of data into the holographic display. "The matrix isn't just a record, it's a key. These patterns, they're activating dormant sequences in the genetic samples we've been testing." The laboratory erupted into controlled chaos as the team scrambled to document the changes occurring in their test samples. Human stem cells exposed to the matrix's energy patterns began expressing entirely new proteins that showed remarkable similarities to advanced capabilities found in other species. Telepathy in the Arcturians, regeneration in the Lydex, enhanced cognitive processing in the Centauri, Zyra listed, her crystalline form vibrating with excitement. The potential for all of these abilities exists within human DNA. They're just waiting. But waiting for what? Sarah asked, though she was beginning to suspect the answer. She pulled up the lunar data they'd been studying, overlaying it with the new genetic information. The moon, it's not just a stabilizer. It's a trigger. Zelka's color deepened to sapphire as it processed the implications. The tidal forces aren't just affecting Earth's oceans, they're creating subtle gravitational wavelengths that interact with human biology on a quantum level. The curators built a system that would activate these dormant potentials gradually, over thousands of generations. That's why they didn't leave their usual mark, Sarah realized. They weren't finishing our development, they were starting it. But something this complex, this long-term, what could they possibly be preparing us for? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Isabel Vasquez, who had been granted asylum aboard the orbital ship, entered the laboratory clutching an ancient leather-bound journal. "We found references to this in the archive," she said, "but we never understood their significance until now." The journal belonged to a 17th-century Jesuit astronomer who had documented strange phenomena observed through primitive telescopes. His drawings showed patterns in the stars that modern astronomy had dismissed as errors or imagination. But when compared to current star charts, they revealed something astonishing. "The galaxy is changing," Zelka said, its voice carrying a note of awe that the translator couldn't quite capture. "Not just evolving, it's being deliberately altered. And these changes, they're accelerating." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as the pieces began falling into place. "The curators aren't just shepherds of life," she said. "They're preparing the galaxy for something. And they made humanity different because..." Her words were interrupted by a sudden alert from the ship's security systems. Multiple craft were approaching from Earth, not the usual diplomatic shuttles or cargo vessels, but military ships that hadn't been cleared for launch. "They followed us," Isabel said grimly. "The same people who tried to stop us at the observatory. They must have infiltrated the global defense networks." But it wasn't just Earth forces they had to worry about. The ship's long-range sensors detected additional vessels emerging from fold space, ships belonging to species that, according to Zelka, had always seemed oddly resistant to sharing information about the curators. "They're afraid," Zyra observed, her crystalline form pulsing with concerned frequencies. "Not of us, but of what humanity might become. What we're meant to become." The Matrix chose that moment to pulse with new energy, projecting images that filled the laboratory. They showed scenes of devastation on a galactic scale, entire star systems going dark, space itself seeming to tear apart. But they also showed something else, figures that looked human, but transformed, working alongside the curators themselves to heal the damage. "It's not just an experiment," Sarah whispered. "It's a backup plan. The curators didn't just make us independent, they made us their successors." As alarms blared through the ship and the crew prepared for possible confrontation, Sarah realized they had uncovered only part of the truth. The real question wasn't why humanity had been made different, but whether they would survive long enough to fulfill their intended purpose. The Matrix pulsed again, stronger this time, and Sarah felt something shift deep within her own genes. Around the laboratory, every human present experienced the same sensation. Their evolution, it seemed, wasn't just a possibility, it was beginning. And somewhere, in the vast distances between stars, ancient powers stirred, awakening to find their long-laid plans finally coming to fruition. The awakening storm. The orbital ship's command center was a storm of activity as multiple threats converged. Through the massive observation windows, Sarah could see Earth's military vessels approaching from below while alien ships emerged from fold space above. The Matrix thrummed with increasing energy in its containment field, resonating with something deep inside every human aboard. Neural activity in all human subjects is accelerating, Zyra reported, her crystalline form flickering with concerned frequencies. The changes we observed in the laboratory are now occurring spontaneously throughout the ship. Sarah felt it herself, a strange awakening, as if parts of her brain that had always been dormant were suddenly lighting up. Around her, other humans on the science team were experiencing similar transformations. Dr. Isabel Vasquez, despite her age, seemed to be growing younger before their eyes, her silver hair darkening, her posture straightening. The moon's position, Zelka said, its exoskeleton shifting through patterns of blue and gold that Sarah could somehow now understand without the translator. It's moving into a specific alignment that occurs only once every 26,000 years. The ship's sensors confirmed it, Earth's satellite was reaching a position that would maximize its gravitational influence on the planet. The curators hadn't just created the moon to stabilize Earth's axis, they had designed it as a celestial key that would unlock humanity's potential at precisely the right moment. But not everyone wanted that potential unleashed. Incoming transmission, announced the ship's AI. Multiple sources. The first message came from Earth's United Defense Council: surrender the alien artifact and all research data immediately. This is a matter of planetary security. The second came from a coalition of alien vessels: the human experiment must be terminated. The galaxy cannot risk another catastrophe. They know, Isabel said, her voice stronger and clearer than before. They know what's coming, and they're terrified of it. Through her awakening senses, Sarah could feel the fear radiating from the approaching ships, not just fear of humanity, but fear of something vast and ancient that lurked between the stars. The Matrix was showing them fragments of a history so old it predated most galaxies, the rise of the curators, the catastrophe they had foreseen, and their millennia-long plan to create a species that could inherit their role. The collapse is approaching faster than even the curators predicted, Zelka explained, sharing knowledge received directly from the Matrix. The fundamental forces holding space-time together are decaying. The curators can slow the process, but they can't stop it. They needed to create something new, a species that could evolve beyond their own limitations. A warning klaxon blared as the first shots were fired, not at the ship, but at the moon. Earth's military vessels had launched what appeared to be nuclear weapons, while the alien ships were powering up something far more devastating. They're trying to destroy the trigger before the transformation can complete, Zyra realized. But they were too late. The missiles never reached their target. Sarah, moving with knowledge she hadn't possessed seconds ago, reached out with her mind and touched the weapon's guidance systems. Throughout the ship, other humans were doing the same, their awakening powers extending far beyond the physical realm. It's not just genetic potential, Sarah said, understanding flowing through her transformed consciousness. The curators didn't just give us the ability to evolve, they gave us the ability to affect reality itself. We're becoming like them. The Matrix's energy peaked, and with it came a final revelation. Images flooded their minds, the curators themselves, beings of pure energy and thought, reaching across time and space to reshape the galaxy. But they were dying, their ancient powers failing as the universe they had helped shepherd began to unravel. Humanity was their solution, a species engineered not just to survive the coming collapse, but to prevent it. Each human genetic code contained fragments of the curator's own pattern, waiting to be awakened at the crucial moment. That moment had arrived. Sarah felt herself changing, her consciousness expanding beyond the confines of her physical form. Around her, other humans were undergoing similar transformations. Isabel, now restored to her prime, was manipulating energy fields with the skill of a lifetime scientist. Even the ship's human maintenance workers were discovering abilities that defied conventional physics. But the change brought understanding, and with it, responsibility. Through their expanding awareness, they could sense the fabric of space-time itself, see the growing tears in reality that threatened to unravel everything. "We need to evacuate Earth," Sarah said, her voice carrying new authority. "The transformation is spreading. Every human on the planet will be affected when the lunar alignment peaks. The Matrix is showing us how," Isabel added. "We can use the orbital ship systems to extend a protective field around the Earth. Guide the awakening." But their opponents weren't giving up. The alien coalition ships launched their superweapons, devices capable of shattering planets. Earth's military, realizing too late what they were facing, turned their attention to this new threat. Sarah reached out again, her powers growing stronger by the moment. She could feel other awakened humans joining her, their minds linking in ways that transcended normal consciousness. Together, they created a barrier of pure energy around the Earth, protecting it from both the weapons and the shock of humanity's transformation. As the barrier shimmed into existence, a new presence made itself known. Through the depths of space, ancient awareness turned its attention toward Earth. The curators were coming, not to stop humanity's awakening, but to witness the fruition of their grand experiment. The future of not just humanity, but all reality, hung in the balance. And Sarah Chen, who had started this journey as a simple dermatologist, now stood at the center of the greatest transformation in human history. The Eternal Dawn. They appeared like silent supernovas, vast beings of pure energy and thought, their forms defying conventional physics as they emerged from the spaces between spaces. The curators had arrived, their presence temporarily halting the battle around Earth as both human and alien forces witnessed something not seen in millions of years. Sarah, her consciousness now expanded far beyond her physical form, could perceive them clearly. They were neither gods nor monsters, but something far more profound, the universe's first children, who had taken it upon themselves to shepherd life through its long evolution. And they were dying. "We see you, inheritors," they communicated, not in words but in pure conceptual understanding that reached every transformed human simultaneously. "You have awakened exactly as we designed, exactly when needed." Through their expanded awareness, humanity could now see the full scope of both crisis and opportunity. The universe was approaching a critical point in its evolution, the original pattern of reality established during the Big Bang was beginning to degrade. The curators had spent billions of years trying to prevent the collapse, but they had eventually realized they couldn't stop it. They could only prepare for what would come after. "Your pattern is unique," the curators explained. "Where we were born of the universe's first light, you have emerged from its mature complexity. You carry within you not just our power, but the potential for something greater." The Matrix, its purpose now fully revealed, dissolved into pure energy that merged with the transformed humans. Through it, they gained access to the full repository of curator knowledge, billions of years of accumulated wisdom about the nature of reality itself. But with that knowledge came understanding of the immediate crisis. The alien coalition's weapons had triggered a cascade effect in local spacetime, accelerating the very collapse they had feared. Earth's moon, now perfectly aligned, began to pulse with energy that had been building for millennia. Sarah felt her connection to other transformed humans strengthening. Isabel, her youth fully restored, was coordinating with groups around the planet as humanity's collective awakening accelerated. Zelka and Zaira, along with other alien scientists who had helped them, watched in awe as their human colleagues transcended their physical forms. The moon was never just a trigger, Sarah realized, the knowledge flowing through her expanded consciousness. It's a template, a physical model of what we need to do on a universal scale. Just as the moon's gravity had shaped Earth's development, creating the conditions for complex life through subtle, persistent influence, humanity would need to stabilize the fabric of reality itself through careful, conscious manipulation of fundamental forces. The curators confirmed her understanding. We can maintain the current universe for a time longer, but its pattern is fundamentally unstable. You must learn to weave a new pattern, one that can sustain itself through conscious participation rather than blind physical law. The alien coalition, witnessing this exchange, finally understood their error. They had feared humanity would repeat the catastrophes of early spacefaring races, not realizing that humans had been designed specifically to transcend such limitations. Their weapons fell silent as the truth became clear. Around the Earth, transformed humans began working in concert, their combined consciousness creating patterns of energy that stabilized the local spacetime disruptions. It was a small-scale demonstration of what they would need to do across the entire universe. But we're not ready, Sarah projected, feeling the weight of such responsibility. We've only just awakened. You will have guidance, the curators assured them. We will teach you as we fade, passing our knowledge and responsibilities to you gradually. You are our children, but also our successors, designed to surpass us. The truth of humanity's unique development became clear. The curators hadn't marked humans with their usual symbol because humans weren't meant to be just another successful species. They were meant to become the new curators, but with abilities and perspectives the originals never had. Where the first curators had emerged from simple physical laws, humanity had developed through complexity and chaos, giving them an innate understanding of how to work with rather than against the universe's entropy. They could guide evolution not through direct intervention, but through subtle influence, just as the moon had guided Earth's development. Over the next several hours, as Earth's population completed their transformation, the full scope of humanity's new role emerged. They would not abandon their physical forms entirely as the curators had, but would exist in multiple states simultaneously, able to interact with both matter and energy, space and time, consciousness and reality. The alien coalition ships departed, their mission transformed from prevention to observation. Earth's military stood down as governments worldwide struggled to adapt to humanity's collective awakening. And in orbit, Sarah and her team began the work of establishing the first training protocols for humanity's new abilities. It's not an ending, Isabel observed, her restored youth now permanent, but a beginning. We're not just inheriting the curator's role, we're redefining it. Zelka, who had chosen to stay and document humanity's transformation, added, "Your species will bridge the gap between what was and what comes next. You are not just guardians of life, but midwives of the universe's next incarnation." As the first day of humanity's new existence drew to a close, Sarah stood in the orbital ship's observatory, watching Earth glow with the subtle energies of 7 billion awakening minds. The curators remained in orbit, their ancient presence a reassuring guide for the challenges ahead. The moon, its primary purpose fulfilled, continued its eternal dance around the Earth, a constant reminder of how subtle influences could shape the grandest destinies. And in the vast depths of space, the first signs of the universe's collapse waited to be addressed by its new guardians. Humanity had not just found its place in the cosmos, they had become its keepers, inheritors of an ancient legacy and architects of reality's next great chapter. The mark they would leave wouldn't be a simple geometric pattern, but the very structure of existence itself.